Hey there, welcome in. Go ahead and get comfortable because you're exactly where you're supposed to be right now. Take a slow breath if you want to, in through the nose and out. No rush. There's nowhere else you need to be tonight. Nothing else you need to do. Just settle into whatever spot you've chosen. The pillow, the blanket, the little corner of the world that's yours for the next little while. And let your shoulders drop away from your ears. You've been carrying them up there all day. You can put them down now. Tonight, we're going somewhere gentle together. It's a place made out of questions. Not the loud, urgent kind of questions that keep you up at night, worrying about tomorrow. No, these are the soft ones, the curious ones, the kind of questions that scientists, some of the smartest, most careful people who've ever lived, have been quietly turning over in their minds for years, sometimes for centuries, and still haven't quite figured out. Because here's the thing. We tend to think science has it all sorted. We grow up with this idea that somewhere, in some laboratory, somebody already knows the answer to everything. That every mystery has been solved, labeled, and filed away in a big book somewhere. And honestly, it's a comforting thought, but it's not really true. The truth is, the world is still absolutely stuffed with things we can't explain. Simple things, everyday things. Things you've done 1,000 times without ever realizing that nobody, not a single person on this whole planet, fully understands why they happen. And that's what we're going to wander through tonight. 100 of them. 100 little mysteries that science still can't crack. But I want to be clear about something before we go any further. This isn't a scary list. I'm not here to unsettle you or fill your head with spooky riddles right before bed. Quite the opposite. Think of these mysteries the way you might think of stars. You look up, and you don't understand even a fraction of what's out there. But it's not frightening. It's peaceful. It's kind of wonderful, actually. There's a certain calm that comes from realizing you don't have to have all the answers, that the universe is allowed to keep a few secrets. And so are you. So that's the mood tonight. Slow, soft, unhurried. We're going to drift through these ideas the way you might drift down a quiet river on a warm afternoon. No destination, no deadline, just the gentle pull of one curious thought leading into the next. And if you fall asleep somewhere along the way, well, honestly, that's the whole point. That's a win. You don't have to make it to the end. You don't have to remember any of this in the morning. If your eyes get heavy and the words start to blur together into a kind of warm, pleasant hum, let them. Let go. That's exactly what's supposed to happen. Now, before we sink all the way in, let me just say one quick thing, and then I promise I'll let my voice settle down into that low, easy rhythm for the rest of our time together. If you enjoy this, if you like drifting off to quiet stories about the universe and all its unanswered questions, do me a small favor and tap that like button, and maybe subscribe if you haven't already. It's a tiny thing, but it genuinely helps this little corner of the internet keep going. And it means more of these calm nights can find their way to people who need them. People just like you, lying somewhere in the dark, hoping to finally get some rest. That's what we do here, night after night. We help folks drift off, one sleepy soul at a time. So if that sounds like something you'd like more of, you know what to do. And then you can forget all about it and let yourself relax. That's the last bit of business, I promise. Okay, deep breath again. There we go. Let's talk about why we're doing this in the first place. There's something really special about that in-between place. You know the one, that soft, hazy stretch of time when you're not quite awake anymore, but not fully asleep either. Everything gets a little slower there, a little kinder. The sharp edges of the day start to soften, and the thoughts that were racing around in your head begin to slow down, like a carousel winding to a stop. That's the place we're aiming for tonight. And it turns out that quiet, gentle curiosity is one of the best ways to get there. Because when your mind has something to hold on to, something interesting, but not stressful, it stops chasing all the other stuff. It stops replaying that awkward conversation from 3 days ago. It stops making tomorrow's to-do list for the 9th time. Instead, it just follows along, softly. And that following, that easy drifting from one idea to the next, is a lot like falling asleep. In fact, it more or less is falling asleep. We're just giving your brain a pleasant path to wander down while it happens. And what better path than the great unsolved mysteries of science? Think about it. These are questions that have humbled geniuses, puzzles that some of the greatest minds in history have stared at, scratched their heads over, and eventually admitted, you know what? We just don't know yet. And there's something oddly soothing about that. If the experts don't have to know everything, then neither do you. Not tonight. Tonight you get to just lie there and let the not knowing wash over you like a warm tide. Some of the things we'll talk about are enormous. Questions about the whole universe, about time itself, about what everything is made of at the very smallest level. And some of them are almost silly in how small and close to home they are. Things about your own body, things about your dreams, things about the animals we live alongside, and the plants in the garden, and the water in the glass on your nightstand. You'll be amazed, quietly, sleepily amazed, at how many of these little everyday puzzles still don't have real answers. But we'll get to all of that in time. There's no hurry. We've got all night. For now, I just want you to settle in a little deeper. Notice how your body feels against whatever's holding you up. The mattress, the couch, the chair. Notice the little points where you're supported. Your head, your back, your legs. Feel how the surface underneath you is doing all the work of holding you up, so your muscles don't have to. You can let them go completely. Let your jaw unclench. Let your hands rest, palms soft, fingers loose. Let your feet fall gently outward. There's nothing to hold on to right now. Nothing to grip. You're safe, and you're allowed to be perfectly, wonderfully still. And if your mind wanders off while I'm talking, that's fine. That's good even. You don't have to concentrate. You don't have to follow every word. My voice is just here to keep you company, like the sound of rain on a window, or the low murmur of a conversation in the next room when you were small and someone else was still awake, keeping watch so you could finally close your eyes. That's all this is. Company, warmth, a soft voice in the dark, so you don't have to drift off alone. You know, it's kind of funny when you stop and think about it. We live our whole lives surrounded by things we don't understand, and most of the time, we barely notice. You flip a switch, and the light comes on. You take a sip of water, and it quenches your thirst. You close your eyes at night, and somehow, your mind spins up these strange little films we call dreams. And in the morning, most of them are gone, melted away like snow. We just accept all of it. We move through a world full of miracles and mysteries, and we hardly ever stop to say, wait a second, how does that actually work? And why? Tonight, we're going to stop. Gently, just for a while. We're going to pick up a few of these ordinary miracles, turn them over in our hands like smooth stones, admire them for a moment, and then set them back down and move along. No pressure to solve anything, no test at the end. Just the quiet pleasure of wondering, because wonder is a restful thing when you let it be. It's only when we turn our questions into worries that they start to keep us awake. A worry says, I need to fix this, and I need to fix it now. But wonder just says, isn't that interesting? And then it lets go. That's the spirit I want you to carry with you into sleep tonight. Not needing to fix a single thing, just softly noticing, just gently wondering, and then letting go, again and again, until sleep finally slips over you, like a blanket being pulled up to your chin. So here's how the rest of our night is going to feel. My voice is going to stay low and slow, like it is right now. I'm going to walk you through these little mysteries one at a time, without any drama, without any sudden loud moments to jolt you back awake. If something's genuinely astonishing, I'll tell you softly. There won't be any twist designed to grab you. This isn't that kind of story. This is the kind of story that's on your side. The kind that's actively rooting for you to lose track of it, to stop listening, to sink down beneath the surface of the words and into a deep, quiet, dreamless rest. And you don't have to earn it. You've already done enough today. Whatever today held for you, whether it was long and hard, or busy and full, or just kind of gray and ordinary, it's finished now. It's behind you. You made it through, and that's enough. You don't have to review it. You don't have to fix any of it tonight. You can let today be over, truly over. Set it down at the edge of the bed, like a pair of shoes you're finally taking off, and leave it there till morning. Tomorrow will take care of itself. It always does somehow. But that's tomorrow's job, not yours, and certainly not right now. Right now, your only job, your only gentle, easy job, is to breathe and to rest, and maybe to let a few quiet questions carry you off to sleep. So let's begin, softly. Let's step into this collection of 100 things that science, for all its brilliance, still can't quite explain. We'll take them slowly. We'll take them gently. And somewhere in the middle of them, when you least expect it, sleep will find you. And I'll keep going quietly in the background, watching over these little mysteries so you don't have to. Just let yourself get comfortable one more time. Adjust the pillow if you need to. Pull the blanket a little closer. Let your breathing slow down all on its own. You don't even have to try. In and out. In and out. Feel how each breath out lets you sink just a tiny bit deeper into where you're lying. A little heavier, a little softer, a little further away from the busy world you were living in all day. We've got all the time we could ever need. There's no clock in here. There's no rush. There's just this. A calm voice, a quiet dark, and a whole universe full of gentle mysteries waiting patiently for us to wander through them together. So take one more slow, easy breath. Let your eyes close if they haven't already, and let's begin to drift, you and I, into the soft and endless territory of everything we still don't know. Nice and easy now. There's no hurry at all. Let's begin. Let's start with something you carry with you every single day. Something so close, you never really look at it. Your own two hands. Go ahead and picture them for a moment, resting there beside you. Now, here's a strange little truth about them. Almost everyone in the world is either right-handed or left-handed, and roughly 9 out of every 10 people favor the right. That much we know. But if you ask a scientist why we have a dominant hand at all, why the split leans so heavily one way, you'll get a lot of thoughtful guesses and no clean answer. We've searched for a single gene that decides it, and it isn't there. It seems to be dozens of tiny influences all whispering at once, plus something about the way each half of the brain quietly divides up the work. Isn't that a soft little thing to notice? That the hand you write with, the hand you reach out with 100 times a day, is still a small unsolved question. And you don't have to solve it. Just let it rest there beside you in the dark. And while we're on the subject of your body, let's drift to something even stranger. Yawning. You've probably yawned once or twice already tonight. And honestly, if you do, that's perfectly fine. That's rather the point of all this. But think about how odd yawning really is. We do it. Dogs do it. Cats do it. Even tiny birds and fish seem to do a version of it. And for all our science, we still can't say for certain why. For the longest time, people thought it was about topping up the oxygen in your blood. But when researchers actually tested that, the idea didn't quite hold up. Then, there's the truly mysterious part, the way yawning is catching. You see someone else yawn, or you hear it, or even just read the word. And suddenly, there's that little pull at the back of your own jaw. Some scientists think it's tied to empathy, to the quiet way we're wired to mirror the people around us. Others think it helps cool the brain down just slightly, like cracking a window in a warm room. Nobody knows for sure, so if a yawn rolls over you now, soft and slow, just let it come. It's your body doing one of its oldest, most mysterious little rituals, and it might just be nudging you gently towards sleep. Now let's float a little further inward, to something you'll be doing very soon, if you aren't already drifting toward it. Dreaming. Every night, your mind puts together these strange, vivid little worlds. Places you've never been, people who don't exist, stories that bend and melt and make perfect sense while you're inside them. And when you wake, most of it simply dissolves, like mist burning off in the morning. Here's the humbling part. After all these years of study, we still don't really know why we dream. We know a fair amount about when it happens, about the stages of sleep, about the flickering activity in the brain. But the why, the reason your mind bothers to build these nightly theaters at all, is still wide open. Some researchers think dreaming is how we sort through the day, filing away what matters and quietly letting go of what doesn't. Others think it's a kind of rehearsal, a safe place to practice fears and feelings. And some suspect it might just be the mind idling, spinning stories out of leftover scraps, because that's simply what minds do in the dark. Whatever the truth is, you get to take part in it every single night, for free. And you don't have to understand it to enjoy it. In just a little while, you'll slip into one of those quiet worlds yourself. And there's nothing you need to do to make it happen. It comes on its own. Let's stay in that gentle territory for a moment longer, because there's a companion mystery right next door. Sleep itself. Not just dreaming, but the whole thing. The reason we lie down and switch off for roughly a third of our lives. Think about that for a second, softly. Nearly a third of your entire life is spent asleep. From the point of view of pure survival, that seems almost reckless. For all those hours, you're not eating, not working, not watching for danger. So there must be an enormous benefit hiding in it, something worth all that vulnerable time. And there is. Sleep helps your body repair, helps your memories settle, helps clear little bits of waste from your brain. But the deep, root-level question of why living things need to lose consciousness at all, why we can't just quietly rest with our eyes open, still doesn't have a tidy answer. Even the simplest creatures, ones with barely any brain to speak of, seem to need something like sleep. It's ancient, it's universal, and it's still, in the deepest sense, unexplained. Isn't that a lovely thought to carry down with you? That the very thing you're doing right now is one of the great open questions of science? You're not wasting time by resting. You're taking part in one of life's oldest mysteries and doing it beautifully just by letting go. Let's ease outward now, away from the body and up into the air around you, something you almost never think about, but it's happening all the time. The way a flock of birds moves together. Maybe you've seen it. Thousands of little starlings pouring across an evening sky, swelling and folding and turning as if they were one single living thing, one dark ribbon rippling against the light. It's called a murmuration, and it is genuinely mesmerizing. Now here's the quiet puzzle. There's no leader in there, no single bird calling the shots, shouting directions. Each bird is simply paying attention to the handful of neighbors closest to it, matching their speed, keeping just the right distance. And out of all those tiny, simple choices, this vast, graceful, sweeping shape emerges, turning on a dime with no one in charge of it. We can describe the rules each bird seems to follow. We can even build little computer models that mimic it. But the deeper feeling of it, how something so coordinated, so seemingly intelligent, arises from so many small creatures with no plan and no boss, still sits at the edge of what we truly understand. Picture that soft, shifting cloud of birds now, folding across a dim orange sky, silent and endless. Let it turn slowly in your mind. There's nothing to figure out. Just watch it drift, the way you're drifting, and down below those birds, in the dark soil, there's another quiet mystery waiting. It has to do with the trees. You've walked past 1,000 trees in your life without ever suspecting what might be happening beneath your feet. Under the ground, threaded through the roots, there's a vast web of fungus, fine, pale threads spreading out through the earth, connecting one tree to the next, and the next, across a whole forest. And through this hidden network, trees seem to be doing something remarkable. They appear to share. A large, older tree can pass sugars and nutrients through those fungal threads to a younger, struggling one nearby. They seem to send signals when trouble comes, a warning that insects are chewing at the leaves, so the neighbors can quietly prepare their defenses. Scientists sometimes call it, with a little smile, the wood wide web. And while we can measure some of these exchanges, the full picture, how much the trees are really communicating, how much they might, in some slow and patient way, be looking out for one another, is still very much unfolding. Imagine that, as you lie here, a whole forest, standing silent in the night, quietly whispering to itself underground, while everything above looks perfectly still. There's a kind of peace in that image, isn't there? A reminder that even the calmest, stillest things are alive with gentle, hidden conversation. Let's follow that feeling of hidden connection just a little further, because there's another one that lives inside you. Right now, in your gut, there are trillions of tiny microbes, bacteria, and other little organisms, more of them than you could ever count, living quietly in the dark warmth of your body. That much is well established. But here's the part that's still being uncovered, softly, year by year. These little residents seem to talk to your brain. There's a kind of hidden line of communication running between your gut and your head. And through it, those microbes may be nudging things you'd never expect. Your mood, your appetite, maybe even the way you feel on an ordinary day. When people talk about a gut feeling, it turns out there might be something oddly literal buried in that old phrase. How deep this connection really goes. How much of who you are on any given day is shaped by these tiny companions is still a wide and open question. So as you lie here, warm and still, know that you're not really alone in there. You're carrying a whole quiet world with you, one that's tending to you in ways we're only just beginning to understand. And right now, it's settling down for the night, right along with you. Let's lift back up toward the sky for this next one, because it's one of my favorites, and it's so simple a child could ask it. Why is the sky blue? You probably learned some version of the answer once. Something about sunlight scattering, about the blue part of the light bouncing around the air more than the rest. And that's true, as far as it goes. That part we understand quite well. But sit with the question a little longer, and it opens up into deeper waters, into the strange nature of light itself, into why light behaves the way it does at all, sometimes acting like a wave rippling across a pond, and sometimes like a stream of tiny separate pieces. That double nature of light is one of the great puzzles that runs right down to the roots of physics, and it still holds mysteries no one has fully settled. So the next time you're outside on a clear afternoon and you glance up at that ordinary blue, remember there's a bottomless question hiding in plain sight up there. But not now. Now the sky is dark and soft above you, and there's nothing to look up at but the quiet ceiling of your own resting mind. Let that darkness be gentle. Let it hold you. And speaking of light, here's a small one that might make you smile in the dark. Why do we find certain things beautiful? A sunset, a particular song, the face of someone we love. There's no obvious survival reason for a sunset to stop you in your tracks the way it does. Those colors don't feed you or shelter you or keep you safe. And yet nearly everyone, everywhere on Earth, across every culture that's ever lived, feels that quiet tug when the sky goes gold and pink at the end of the day. Where does that come from? Why is beauty even a thing our minds can feel? We have some gentle guesses. Maybe it's tied to what once signaled a safe, rich place to live. Maybe it's the mind delighting in patterns. But the real heart of it, why a certain arrangement of color or sound can move something deep inside a person is still a lovely unsolved thing. And I think it's rather nice that it stays a little bit unexplained. Some mysteries are more comfortable left soft around the edges. You don't need a reason to find something beautiful. You just feel it, and feeling it is enough. Let's take another slow breath together here, because this is a good place to pause. In, gently, and out. Notice how much heavier you feel than when we started. Notice how the room has softened around you, how the edges of things have gone blurry and unimportant. That's exactly right. That's your body doing its ancient, mysterious work, easing you down towards sleep one quiet layer at a time. You don't have to help it along. You don't have to do anything at all. Just keep listening, or don't. Let the words blur together like the birds in the sky, like the threads under the forest floor. It's all the same gentle drift now. Because that's the thing about all these little mysteries. You don't have to hold on to a single one of them. I'll keep them safe for you. Let them wash over you like slow water, the dominant hand you were born with, and no one quite knows why. The yawn that catches from person to person, like a soft, silent ripple. The dreams your mind will build tonight for reasons it's never told anyone. The sleep that even the simplest creatures on earth still can't do without. The birds folding across the sky with no one leading them. The trees whispering underground. The tiny world inside you, tending you as you rest. The blue of a sky you can't see right now. The quiet ache of finding something beautiful. Every one of them still open. Every one of them still unsolved. And every one of them perfectly happy to wait for you, patiently, in the dark, while you do the far more important work of letting go. So let yourself sink a little further. There's still so much ahead of us, so many more soft questions to wander through, and absolutely no reason to rush toward any of them. We have all night, remember. The clock isn't watching. Nothing out there needs you right now. There's only this quiet room, this slow voice, and the long, easy path down into sleep, unrolling in front of you one gentle step at a time. Stay with me if you like, or drift ahead without me. Either way, I'll be right here, keeping watch over all these little mysteries, carrying them softly for you while you rest. So let's wander on together, slow and easy, into a few more of these gentle little mysteries. And here's a good one to sink into next, because it's happening right now, all around you, even in this dark and quiet room. Time. Just time. The way it moves. You feel it, don't you? That steady forward drift from this moment into the next and the next, always in one direction, never sliding backward. You woke up this morning and the day unfolded, and now here you are at the soft end of it, drifting down toward rest, forward, always forward. It feels like the most obvious thing in the world. But here's the strange part, the part that quietly baffles some of the brightest minds who've ever lived. When they look closely at the deepest laws of physics, the real bedrock rules that everything is built on, most of those rules don't actually care which way time goes. On paper, in the math, the future and the past look almost the same. The equations would work just as happily running backward as forward. And yet we never, ever experience it that way. A cup falls off a table and shatters, but you'll never see the pieces gather themselves back up and hop into your hand, whole again. Smoke drifts up and spreads out into the air, but it never gathers itself back into a tidy little curl. Everything flows one way, and no one can fully, completely explain why the world we live in has such a strong sense of direction when the underlying rules seem so wonderfully indifferent to it. There's a lovely idea that gets close. It has to do with order slowly turning into disorder, the way a neat stack of papers tends to scatter, the way a warm cup of tea slowly cools to match the room, never the other way around. Things tend to spread out, to soften, to settle. And maybe that gentle, endless spreading out is what gives time its arrow, its one-way feeling. Maybe that's why yesterday feels different from tomorrow. But even that beautiful idea leaves a little gap, a soft question mark. It doesn't quite tell us why time began so neat and tidy in the first place, so long ago, so that it would have somewhere to unwind from. And so the deepest question of all, what time really is, why it flows, why we feel ourselves carried along it like a leaf on a slow river, stays open, stays soft, stays unsolved. And honestly, isn't there something comforting in that? You spend your whole day at the mercy of time. Hurry here, don't be late for that. Only so many hours to get things done. The clock rules everything when you're awake. But right now, lying here in the dark, you get to set it all down. You don't have to chase a single minute. Time can flow however it likes, and you don't have to keep up with it anymore. Let it drift past you like slow water. You've stepped off the path for the night. There's nowhere to be. Take a soft breath with me here. In, gently, filling up slow, and out, letting it all go. Feel how your body sinks just a little deeper every time you breathe out. That's the whole trick, if there is one. Just the out breath, letting you down another quiet step. You don't have to think about the in breath at all. Your body handles that part for you, the way it always has, the way it will all night long without a word from you. Isn't that a kind thing? When you think about it, so much of what keeps you alive just happens, quietly, in the background, asking nothing of you at all. Now, while we're on the subject of things that just happen without you asking, here's another gentle mystery, and it's one you carry around inside your own head. Memory, the way you remember. Think about it for a moment, softly, not too hard. Somewhere in that warm, dark space behind your eyes is a picture of a place you loved as a child. Maybe a kitchen, maybe a garden, maybe the particular smell of a certain afternoon a long, long time ago. It's in there. You can reach for it, and there it is. But where exactly is it? What is a memory made of? When you call one up, what are you actually holding? We know a fair amount, of course. We know memories live somewhere in the vast tangle of connections between the tiny cells in your brain. All those threads reaching out and touching one another. More connections than there are stars you could ever count. We know that when you learn something, those connections shift and strengthen, quietly rewiring themselves in the dark. But the deeper you look, the stranger it gets. A memory isn't tucked away whole in one little spot, like a photograph in a drawer. It seems to be scattered, spread across the whole soft web of your mind, and somehow pulled back together into one piece the moment you need it. And every single time you remember something, you change it, just a little. You handle it, and in handling it, you leave your fingerprints on it. The memory you have of that childhood kitchen isn't quite the original anymore. It's a memory of the last time you remembered it, and the time before that, worn smooth and gently reshaped by all the years of visiting. Which means, in a soft and slightly wonderful way, your past isn't fixed at all. It's alive. It shifts. It breathes along with you, and no one can quite explain how the mind does this, how it stores so much, how it finds the right thread in an instant, how it keeps you feeling like one continuous person from the child in that kitchen all the way to the sleepy grown-up lying here now. It's one of the great quiet puzzles, tucked right inside your own skull, working away without ever once bothering to tell you how. But you don't have to solve it tonight. In fact, you can let it do the opposite of remembering. You can let today go, gently, the way you let out a long breath. All the little things that filled your hours, the conversations, the small worries, the things you meant to do, you can let them loosen their grip and float off, one by one, like leaves lifting off a still pond. You don't need to file any of it away right now. Your mind will sort through it later, in its own quiet way, while you sleep, in that mysterious backstage work it does every single night without ever showing you the details. Let it. Let it take today off your hands. And that's a fine thing to drift toward next, isn't it? The deep, strange question of why we sleep at all and what happens in there. Not the surface of it, but the real down deep of it. Every night, you lie down and you let go of the waking world entirely. You surrender. For hours, you're not steering anything. You're not aware of the room, not aware of time passing, not really aware of yourself. And then, come morning, you gather yourself back up and rise, and somehow you feel repaired, renewed, ready, as if something kind visited you in the dark and set everything right again. But what exactly? What is the mind doing all those hours? Why does a creature need to switch off so completely, so vulnerably, night after night, when in the wild that ought to be a dangerous thing to do? To lie still and defenseless in the dark for a third of your whole life. It must be doing something desperately important, or nature would surely have found a way around it long ago. And yet we still can't say, fully and completely, what that something is. We have pieces. We think the brain uses the night to tidy itself, to rinse away the little bits of clutter that build up during a busy day. We think it takes the day's flood of moments and gently sorts them, deciding what to keep and what to quietly let dissolve. We think it knits up the frayed edges of the body, mends and restores in ways it simply can't while you're awake and busy living. All of that seems to be true. And still, at the very center of it, there's a hush, a gap. We don't fully know why sleep feels the way it does, why it takes us so far away from ourselves, why it's so utterly non-negotiable that no living thing has ever found a way to skip it for long. You can go longer without food than you can without sleep. Isn't that something? Your body will insist on it, will drag you down into it, whether you like it or not. Will find a way to steal a few seconds of it, even when you're fighting to stay awake. It's one of the deepest, most universal, most stubborn needs a living thing has, and one of the least understood. But you tonight, you don't have to understand it. You just get to do it. You get to hand yourself over to that ancient kindness and let it carry you off. No struggle, no effort, no cleverness required. Just the slow, natural sinking that's already happening. Right now, whether you notice it or not, your breathing has slowed. Your thoughts have gone loose and shapeless. The weight of your own body is pressing gently down into whatever's holding you. And it feels good, doesn't it, to be held like that? To not have to carry yourself for a while. Let's take one more slow breath together before we drift on. In, soft and unhurried. Hold it just a heartbeat. And out, long and easy, letting your shoulders melt down away from your ears. There. Feel that. A little further down every time. You're doing beautifully. And the lovely thing is, you're not really doing anything at all. You're just allowing. Just letting the night do what the night has always done. And there are so many more of these gentle, unsolved things waiting for us, patient as ever, in no hurry at all. The mystery of why a piece of music can reach right into your chest and squeeze something there. No words needed. The strange fact that you can feel someone looking at you sometimes before you've even turned around. The odd, tip of the tongue moment when a word hides from you, right there and yet just out of reach. The way a familiar smell can hurl you 30 years into the past in a single breath. The reason a long walk can untangle a worry that sitting still never could. All of them open, all of them soft around the edges, all of them perfectly content to wait for you, so don't reach for any of them yet. There's no need. We'll get to each one in its own slow time, and if you drift off before we do, that's not missing out. That's the whole point. That's the destination we've been ambling toward all along. Every one of these little wonders is happy to keep. I'll hold them for you, all of them, right here in the quiet, while you let yourself go a little deeper still. Because the truth is, wonder was never meant to keep you awake. Curiosity, the gentle kind, the kind with no urgency in it at all, is one of the most restful feelings there is. It asks nothing of you. It doesn't need an answer by morning. It just opens a soft door and lets you wander through, room after quiet room, with no map and no destination, and nowhere at all you need to be. And one of those rooms, sooner or later tonight, will simply be sleep. You'll cross into it without even noticing the threshold. One moment you'll be here, listening, wandering with me, and the next, you'll be somewhere warmer and further away, and you won't remember exactly when it happened. That's how it should be. That's how it always is. So stay a while longer if you like, and let me keep talking you gently downward. Or slip away now, right here, into the dark and the quiet and the endless patient mysteries that don't need you tonight. Either way is right. Either way, I'll be here, low and slow, carrying all these soft unanswered questions for you, keeping watch while you rest and sink, and let the whole wide unexplained world go on turning quietly without you for a while. Let me tell you about one of my favorites, and it's something that happens in hospitals every single day, all over the world, and almost nobody stops to marvel at it. Anesthesia, the deep kind, the kind where they switch you off completely for surgery. You lie down, someone slips something into your arm, or asks you to breathe in slow, and they tell you to count backward from 10. And you get to about 7, maybe 6 if you're stubborn, and then nothing. Not sleep, not a dream, just a clean blank gap where you used to be. And then you're waking up in another room entirely, hours gone, and it feels like no time passed at all. Here's the strange part. We've been doing this for well over 150 years now. Millions of people are put under safely every single week. And yet, if you ask the scientists who study it, really study it, exactly how those drugs switch off your conscious mind while keeping your heart beating and your lungs working, they'll be honest with you. They don't fully know. They know what to give you and how much, and they're extraordinarily good at it. But the deep question, the one about how a little bit of medicine can reach into the vast electrical storm of your brain and quietly turn down the light of awareness itself without turning off the body underneath, that one's still open. Isn't that something? We can do it. We just can't entirely explain it. And somehow I find that more comforting than unsettling. There's a whole ocean of the unknown sitting right inside something as ordinary as an operating room. And speaking of oceans, let's drift down there for a moment, all the way down into the deep sea. Because here's a fact that never stops quietly amazing me. We have better maps of the surface of the moon and of Mars than we do of our own ocean floor. Think about that. We've sent little robots trundling across the red dust of another planet, taking photographs, and yet more than 80% of our own ocean has never been mapped in any real detail, never been seen by human eyes, never been touched by any light but the faint glow of the creatures that live down there and make their own. And oh, the creatures. Down in that cold, black, crushing quiet, there are animals we've barely begun to understand. Fish that carry their own lanterns. Things that pulse with soft blue light for reasons we can only guess at. Whole communities of life clustered around cracks in the sea floor, where scalding water pours up from inside the earth, living not off sunlight, like everything up here, but off the chemistry of the planet itself. When we first found them, it rewrote what we thought life even needed to exist. And every time a new expedition goes down, it comes back with something nobody's ever seen before. A new shape, a new glow, a new gentle question. There is, quite literally, a whole living world on this planet that remains mostly a mystery, resting there in the dark, in no hurry to be discovered. Rather like you, right now, resting in your own soft dark, in no hurry at all. Let that image carry you down a little further. The deep water, the slow, cold current, the soft blue lights drifting past, patient and unbothered. Now here's one that's a little closer to home. One you felt yourself, I'd bet, more than once. That strange, shivery sense of having been somewhere before, when you know for certain you haven't. Déjà vu. The words just mean already seen. You walk into a room you've never set foot in, or someone says a sentence you've never heard, and out of nowhere, your whole body insists, quietly and completely, that this exact moment has happened before, that you already know what comes next. And then the feeling slips away as fast as it came, and you're left blinking, a little puzzled, going, huh? That was odd. Nearly everyone has it. And for something so common, it's remarkably slippery to study, because it never shows up when you want it to. You can't order a déjà vu the way you'd order a coffee. It just arrives, unannounced, and vanishes before anyone can get a proper look. There are gentle theories, of course. Maybe it's a tiny hiccup in the way your memory files things. The new moment getting stamped, just for a heartbeat, with the label of the old. Maybe it's two parts of your brain falling a fraction of a second out of step with each other, so that the present arrives feeling secondhand. Nobody's certain. It's one of those little glitches in the ordinary machinery of being a person. And honestly, I think it's rather lovely that the mind still keeps a few secrets, even from the people who own it. Isn't that a soft thing to think about as you lie here? That your own mind, the one quietly doing all of this right now, is still partly a mystery, even to the brightest people who've ever tried to understand it. You don't have to figure it out. You're allowed to just be it. Just be the warm, breathing, half-dreaming mystery, resting here in the dark. Here's another one, and this one lives in the medicine cabinet of all places. The placebo effect. You've probably heard of it. You give someone a sugar pill, nothing in it, no medicine at all, just something that looks the part, and you tell them it'll help. And sometimes, genuinely, it does. Their pain eases, their symptoms soften, their body starts to mend a little faster, not because of anything in the pill, but because some part of them believed, because they expected to feel better, and the expectation itself reached down into the body and changed something real. And it goes further in ways that still make researchers scratch their heads. The color of the fake pill can change how well it seems to work. A larger pill can feel more powerful than a small one. 2 pills can beat 1. There's even good evidence that it can work a little even when people know it's a placebo. Even when you tell them straight out, this is just sugar, there's nothing in here. Somehow, the ritual of taking it, the gentle act of being cared for and expecting relief, still nudges the body toward healing. We can measure it. We can prove it's real. But the deep how of it, how a thought, an expectation, a bit of hope becomes an actual physical change in flesh and nerve and chemistry, that thread still hasn't been fully followed to its end. Your mind and your body are talking to each other constantly in a language we've only half learned to read. I love that one, honestly, because it's so quietly hopeful. It means kindness might be a kind of medicine. It means believing in getting better isn't nothing. It's something the body seems to hear. And right now, lying here, letting yourself believe that rest is coming, that sleep is on its way, that you are safe and warm and allowed to let go. Well, maybe that's its own small dose of something good. Let's go up into the sky again for the next one. Way up. Birds. Every year, all across the world, billions of them lift off and travel enormous distances, some of them from one end of the earth to the other, and back again, following routes their kind have followed for longer than there have been people to watch. Little birds, some of them, no heavier than a handful of coins, crossing entire oceans without stopping to rest. And they find their way. That's the part. They find their way with a precision that would put most of our gadgets to shame. How? Well, we've gathered some pieces. They seem to read the sun. They seem to read the stars at night, the way old sailors once did. They pay attention to landmarks, to coastlines and rivers. But there's more, and it's the more that's still wonderfully strange. Many birds appear to be able to sense the Earth's magnetic field directly, to feel, somehow, which way is north, as plainly as you feel which way is down. And there's a growing idea that they might be doing this using something happening at the tiniest, most delicate level inside their own eyes. That they might, in some sense, actually see the magnetic field of the planet as a faint pattern laid over the world. A living compass built right into a creature the size of your thumb. We're still working out exactly how it functions. A bird doesn't know any of this, of course. It just goes. It just trusts the pull and follows it home. There's something in that worth resting on too. The idea that you can find your way without understanding how you do it. That some deep, quiet part of you already knows the direction, even when your thinking mind has gone soft and dark for the night. And here's a small, warm one to hold before we drift on. Cats. If you've ever had one curl up on you, you know the sound. That low, rolling purr, that little engine running in their chest. We hear it constantly, and we barely question it. But here's the funny thing. We're still not entirely sure how cats make that sound, or exactly why. There's no single obvious organ that produces it, the way we've got vocal cords for a voice. It seems to come from a rapid little flutter deep in the throat, driven by signals from the brain in a rhythm that just quietly hums along. And they don't only do it when they're happy. Cats purr when they're content, yes, but also sometimes when they're frightened, or hurting, or healing. Some people think the frequency of it, that particular gentle vibration, might actually help their own bodies mend, might soothe and knit and calm. Imagine that, a built-in comfort, humming in the dark, good for the one who makes it, and the one who's lucky enough to be lying underneath it. A small mystery, warm and alive and resting on your chest. The whole world is full of them, if you slow down enough to notice. You see how it goes, don't you? You pull on any ordinary thread, a pill, a bird, a sleeping patient, a purring cat, the dark water under the waves, and it unravels into wonder. Nothing here is really as settled as it seems in the daytime rush. And that's not a frightening thought at bedtime. It's a soft one. It means you can lay down every single thing you thought you had to have figured out and rest easy in the not knowing. Because even the cleverest minds on earth are lying in their own beds tonight, not knowing right alongside you. You're in good company. The whole species is a little bit in the dark and getting on just fine. Before you drift the rest of the way down, I want to ask you something, gently, and there's no rush to answer. You can let it wander through your mind as you fall, or save it for whenever morning comes. If you're still here with me, still floating along on the edge of sleep, I'd love to know. Which of these little mysteries is the one that gets you? The one you'd happily lie awake just a few more seconds thinking about? Maybe it's the deep sea and all its glowing strangers. Maybe it's the birds finding their way home across an ocean, or that clean blank gap of anesthesia, or the strange secondhand shimmer of deja vu. Whatever it is, whenever you surface, leave it for me down in the comments. Just a word or two, whatever floats up. I read them in the quiet, and there's something lovely about a whole crowd of half-asleep people all wondering softly together, each in their own dark room, each drifting off with a different little question tucked under the pillow. So think of yours, hold it loosely, and let it carry you down, warm and unhurried, into the rest of the night. And speaking of little questions tucked under the pillow, here's one that I think is about the softest, silliest, most human mystery there is. Blushing. You know the feeling. Someone says your name across a room, or you remember something you said years ago that still makes you cringe. And there it is. That warm rush rising up your neck and into your cheeks. The skin going pink all on its own, without a single word from you. And here's the strange part. We're the only creature that does it. No other animal on this whole spinning planet turns red in the face out of embarrassment. Not a one. Charles Darwin himself puzzled over this, called it the most peculiar and most human of all our expressions. And even he couldn't quite work out why we'd evolve a thing that seems to work against us. Think about it. Blushing basically announces to everyone around that you feel exposed, that you got caught out, that you care what they think. It gives you away completely. So why would nature build in a signal that broadcasts our most vulnerable moment right there on our faces, for all to see? Some people think that's exactly the point, that it's a kind of quiet honesty, a way of saying, without words, I know, I'm sorry, I'm one of you. A blush is trust made visible. It says, you can't fake your way past me. I feel this. And isn't that a gentle thought, lying here in the dark, where no one can see your face at all? That the very thing that embarrasses you in the daylight might be one of the kindest, most trustworthy things about being a person. Let that warmth fade now, soft and slow, back down into calm. Here's another one, and it's so ordinary you've probably never once stopped to wonder about it. Hiccups. Everyone gets them. Babies get them before they're even born, curled up in the warm dark, hiccuping away weeks before their first breath. And we still don't really know what they're for. That little catch in your chest, that sudden gulp, the diaphragm giving one sharp, involuntary jump. It doesn't seem to help us in any obvious way. It's not protecting us from anything. It doesn't clear the throat or fill the lungs. It just happens, sometimes for no reason at all, and then wanders off again just as mysteriously. One idea is that it's a leftover, an old echo from somewhere far back down our family tree, from a time, hundreds of millions of years ago, when some distant ancestor of ours breathed through gills in the water and needed that exact little motion to move water across them. If that's true, then every time you hiccup, you're doing something impossibly ancient, a gesture handed down across an unimaginable stretch of time, from creatures that swam in seas long gone, a tiny fossil of a movement still living inside your chest. Nobody's certain. But I love the idea that the body remembers things the mind never could, that it carries these old habits quietly, faithfully, long after we've forgotten what they were ever for. Nothing you need to hold. Just let it drift. Now here's one you can literally look at right now, if your eyes weren't already growing so heavy and warm. Your fingertips, the little swirls and loops and ridges pressed into the skin there. Your fingerprints. We all know they're unique, that no two people who've ever lived have had quite the same pattern, that they're yours and yours alone. But here's the funny thing. We're still not entirely sure why we have them at all. For a long time, the obvious answer seemed to be grip, that the ridges help us hold on to things, the way the tread on a tire grips the road. It's a lovely, tidy explanation. The only trouble is, when people actually tested it, the numbers didn't quite line up the way you'd expect. Some studies even suggested those ridges might reduce the contact between your skin and a smooth surface, not increase it. So maybe it's about touch instead. Maybe those tiny ridges help you feel the world more finely, sending little vibrations up into your fingertips as you brush across a texture, so you can tell silk from paper, warm stone from cool glass, the softness of a blanket pulled up under your chin. We're honestly still sorting it out, which means the very fingers you'd use to point at a mystery are a small mystery themselves. Isn't that something? You've been carrying an unsolved puzzle around on the ends of your own hands your whole life, and it's touched everything you've ever loved. Let's go somewhere colder for a moment, but stay wrapped up warm right where you are. Ice, slippery ice, the kind that sends your feet skating out from under you on a winter morning. You'd think, of all the things in the world, we'd understand why ice is slippery. It seems so basic. And yet, for a surprisingly long time, we really didn't. And honestly, we're still filling in the details. The old explanation was pressure. The idea that your weight bearing down melts a thin skin of water under your foot, and you slide on that. But the more carefully people looked, the more that story wobbled. It turns out the surface of ice is just strange. Even when it's well below freezing, even when it's nowhere near melting, the very top layer of ice seems to behave a little like a liquid, a slippery, restless skin of molecules that never quite settle down and freeze solid the way the ice beneath them does. A sort of permanent thin wetness, there whether you press on it or not. Scientists are still working out exactly how thick that layer is, exactly why it forms, exactly how it makes things glide. Something as everyday as a slick patch on the path, and we're still learning its secrets. There's something almost peaceful about that, isn't there? That the plain, cold, ordinary world is quietly full of things we haven't finished understanding. You don't have to finish understanding them either. Just let them be beautiful. And here's one that lights up the sky, but softly. Nothing frightening about it, I promise. Ball lightning. For centuries, people have reported the same strange thing during storms. Not the usual crack and flash we all know, but something else. A glowing ball of light, sometimes about the size of a grapefruit, sometimes bigger, drifting slowly through the air. People have seen these things float across rooms, roll along the ground, hover near windows, and then vanish, sometimes with a little pop, sometimes silently, without leaving a mark. Sailors describe them. Farmers describe them. Scientists dismiss them for the longest time as imagination, as tricks of a frightened mind in a storm. But too many level-headed people, in too many different centuries and countries, kept describing the very same thing for it to be nothing. And to this day, we don't have a settled answer for what ball lightning actually is, or how it forms, or why it moves the way it does. It's one of those rare things that lives right on the edge of what we've managed to pin down, glimpsed, reported, sworn to, and still not caught. A little ghost of the thunderstorm, glowing and gone. You don't need to solve it. Just picture it drifting somewhere far off, gentle and strange, while you lie here safe and dry and warm. Let's follow something on a much longer journey now. Monarch butterflies. These are those beautiful orange and black ones, delicate as tissue paper, light as a breath. And every year, huge numbers of them make an astonishing trip, flying thousands of kilometers south to spend the winter in the very same forests, generation after generation. Now here's the part that quietly breaks your brain in the loveliest way. The butterfly that arrives at those wintering grounds has never been there before. It's never made the trip. The ones that flew south the previous year are long gone. The journey takes several generations, with butterflies being born and dying along the way, so that the great-great-grandchildren of the travelers are the ones who finally arrive. And yet somehow they find the exact same patch of forest, sometimes the very same trees that their ancestors found. No one taught them the way. No one flew ahead to show them. The map is somehow written into them, into a creature whose whole brain is smaller than a grain of rice. How? We have guesses. Something about the angle of the sun, something about sensing the Earth's magnetic field, some inherited compass we're only beginning to trace. But the full answer, the real how of it, still slips through our fingers. A butterfly you could hold in your cupped hands carries directions across a continent it has never seen. If that doesn't make the world feel wide and gentle and full of quiet wonders, I don't know what will. Let it flutter off now, soft and slow, into the warm dark behind your eyes, and staying with the small, patient workers of the world. Honeybees. You know that when a bee finds a good patch of flowers, it comes home and tells the others. But the way it tells them is the astonishing part. It dances. Back inside the dark of the hive, the bee does this little looping, waggling dance across the honeycomb, and packed inside that dance is real information. The direction of the flowers, roughly how far away they are, how good the find is. The angle the bee waggles at, tilted just so against the pull of gravity, actually tells the others which way to fly relative to the sun. It's a language made of movement, a set of directions performed in the dark. And the other bees read it not with their eyes, but by feeling it, crowding close, sensing the little vibrations. We've studied this for the better part of a century, and we still keep uncovering new layers to it. How the message gets passed along, how the bees agree on where to go, how so much can be said by a creature so small without a single sound we'd recognize as a word. A whole civilization humming away in the walls, talking in dances we're still learning to read. Isn't it lovely to think there are conversations happening all around us all the time, in languages we've barely begun to understand? Here's a tiny, crackling one to hold. Static electricity. You shuffle across a carpet in your socks, reach for a doorknob, and snap, that little sting, that spark you can sometimes even see in a dark room. We've known about this for thousands of years. The ancient Greeks noticed it, rubbing amber against fur and watching it pull little bits of straw toward it. It's honestly one of the oldest observations in all of science. And here's the quietly astonishing thing. Even now, we don't fully understand the basic details of how it works. When two ordinary surfaces rub together and swap that little charge, we still can't perfectly predict which one will end up positive and which negative, or exactly why. Something so simple, so old, so everyday. A spark off a blanket, the way your hair lifts and floats after you pull off a warm hat, and the fine print of it still isn't finished. There's a kind of comfort in that, don't you think? That you don't have to have the small things figured out any more than the scientists do. You can just feel the little spark and smile and let it go. And one last soft thread before we drift on a little deeper. Spider silk, that thin, almost invisible thread a spider spins out of its own body. It's one of the most remarkable materials in the entire natural world. For its weight, it's stronger than steel and stretchier than almost anything we can make. able to catch the flying weight of an insect without snapping, able to hold together through wind and rain, glittering with dew in the early morning like a string of tiny beads. People have been trying for a very long time to copy it, to make something as strong and light and flexible in a lab. And we still can't quite match what a small creature does effortlessly in the corner of a garden overnight. The spider spins it as a liquid inside its body, and it turns to that impossible thread the instant it meets the air. And the exact chemistry of how that happens, how something so soft becomes something so strong so fast, is still not something we can fully reproduce. A masterpiece of engineering, strung between two twigs, made by a creature that isn't trying to impress anyone at all. The world is quietly showing off, everywhere, all the time, and mostly, we walk right past it. But not tonight. Tonight, you get to lie here and let all these small marvels settle over you like a blanket. The blush and the hiccup, the fingerprint and the ice, the drifting light and the butterfly and the bee, the little spark and the silver thread. None of them solved, all of them beautiful, and not one of them asking anything of you at all. Just breathe, slow and easy, and let them shine softly in the dark while you sink down a little further into the warm. Let me carry you a little deeper now, into a few more of these small unsolved things. Here's one you're probably touching right now, or lying near, without a second thought. Glass. The window across the room, the little tumbler of water on your nightstand, the lens in a pair of reading glasses. You'd call it a solid, wouldn't you? It's hard, it holds its shape, you can wrap your knuckle against it. And yet, the truth is, scientists still argue about what glass actually is, down at the deepest level. Because in some quiet ways, it behaves less like a normal solid and more like a liquid that has slowed down so much it seems to have stopped. When water freezes into ice, the little pieces inside line up into a neat, orderly pattern, tidy as bricks in a wall. But glass never does that. When it cools, its insides stay jumbled and random, frozen mid-swirl, like a crowd caught in the middle of a dance and told to hold perfectly still. It looks settled, it looks finished. But no one can fully explain the moment when a flowing, molten thing becomes that still, clear, unmoving pain, where exactly the line is between liquid and solid, or whether there's even a clean line at all. One of the oldest materials we've ever made, shaped by human hands for thousands of years, and we still can't quite say what it is. Isn't that a soft thought? That the window keeping the night air out is, in its own quiet way, a mystery holding perfectly still. And speaking of things held still, here's a strange little one that lives right in your own body. You can't tickle yourself. Go on. You don't even have to try. Just think about it. If someone else runs their fingers lightly along the bottom of your foot or the side of your ribs, you squirm, you laugh, you can't help it. But do the exact same thing to yourself, with your own hand, and nothing. No spark, no giggle, no reflex at all. And the reason for that turns out to touch something surprisingly deep about how the mind works. Your brain, it seems, is always quietly predicting what your own body is about to do, running a little forecast a half second ahead of every movement you make. So when your own hand reaches for your own foot, your brain already knows it's coming, and it gently turns the volume down on the sensation before it even arrives. It cancels out the surprise. And tickling whatever else it is, seems to need surprise. But here's the part we still can't fully explain. Why tickling exists at all, why that particular touch in those particular spots should make a person laugh helplessly. Why we're built to respond to it, what it's for, whether it's some old leftover from the way young animals play and wrestle and learn the edges of their own bodies. We don't really know. Something as simple and silly as a laugh from a light touch, and the honest answer is a shrug. There's something sweet in that, I think, that even our laughter keeps a few secrets from us. You don't have to solve it. You can just let the thought make you smile a little, there in the dark, and breathe. In through the nose, slow and soft, and out, letting your whole body sink another inch into the bed. Now, let me take you outside for a moment, in your mind. Picture a river. Picture the water rushing past a rock, the way it curls and folds behind the stone, the little spinning eddies, the swirls that form and break apart and form again. All of it churning and looping in a pattern that never quite repeats. It's beautiful to watch. You could stare at it for an hour and never see the same shape twice. And here's the thing that might surprise you. That churning, tumbling motion, it's called turbulence. And it is one of the great unsolved problems in all of physics. Not a small one either. Some of the most brilliant minds who ever lived have wrestled with it and walked away without a full answer. We can describe smooth, gentle flow beautifully. Water gliding calmly down a slow stream. The neat way honey pours off a spoon. But the moment the motion turns wild, the moment it breaks into all those swirls inside swirls, our best equations start to strain and blur. We can't perfectly predict it. It's why forecasting the weather more than a few days out is so hard. Why the air shaking a plane is so tricky to model. Why smoke rising off a candle climbs in a smooth ribbon, and then suddenly, at a certain height, bursts into curls and chaos. There's a famous story, probably not entirely true, but lovely anyway, that a great physicist once said he'd ask God 2 questions, and one of them would be about turbulence, because he suspected even the universe might have to think for a second before answering. Something you can see in a coffee cup when you pour in the cream. Something in every river and every rising wisp of steam. And it still hasn't been fully tamed by all our mathematics. Let that swirl and settle in your mind, slow and hypnotic. The cream curling through the coffee, the eddies turning behind the stone, round and softly down. Here's another one, closer to home, tucked right inside your chest and your bones. Blood. You've got somewhere around 5 liters of it moving through you right now, quiet and constant. And most of us know it comes in different types. The letters, you've probably heard them. The A and the B and the O. If you've ever given blood or needed some, someone will have checked which kind you carry, because mixing the wrong ones can cause real trouble. So we understand that they matter enormously. But here's the quietly puzzling part. We still don't really know why we have them at all. Why did humans evolve these different blood types in the first place? What good does it do you, deep down, to be one letter rather than another? There are guesses, of course. Hints that some types might have offered a little protection against certain old diseases long ago. Some ancient tug of war between our bodies and the tiny things that tried to make us sick. But no one can say for certain. Something written into every drop of you. Something so important that doctors must always get it right. And the reason it exists in the first place is still a soft, open question. You are carrying a small mystery in your veins right now, keeping you alive without ever once asking you to understand it. Just let it flow, slow and warm and faithful, while you rest. In gently. Hold it just a heartbeat. And out, long and slow, shoulders melting down away from your ears. Let me give you one that lives up in the sky, but it's a gentle one, I promise. The sun. That great, steady, familiar warmth we've circled our whole lives. You'd think, of anything, we'd have the sun figured out by now. And in so many ways, we do. But there's a puzzle right at its edge that has quietly baffled people for a long time. The surface of the sun is blisteringly hot, thousands of degrees. But the thin, faint halo of gas that surrounds it, the part called the corona, the soft glow you can sometimes see reaching out during an eclipse, that outer layer is hundreds of times hotter still. Hundreds of times. And that's backwards from what you'd expect, isn't it? Think of sitting by a fireplace. The closer you get to the flames, the warmer you feel. The farther away you step, the cooler it gets. That's how heat is supposed to work. Strongest at the source, fading as it spreads. But at the sun, it's as if you walked away from the fire and somehow got hotter the farther out you went. The part of the sun that's farthest from its fiery heart is, somehow, the most scorching of all. And for the longest time, nobody could explain how that could possibly be. We're getting closer now. We've sent little brave spacecraft skimming in nearer than ever before, gathering clues about tangled magnetic fields and tiny explosions rippling across the surface. But the full answer still isn't settled. The star that lights our every day, the one thing in the sky you'd think held no secrets, is still keeping this one warm and folded up close. There's something comforting about that, don't you think? That even the sun, that great old reliable thing, is still a little bit unknown. You don't have to understand it to feel its warmth. You never did. And here's a small, quiet one to lay down beside it. Migrating birds. Not the butterflies we spoke of before, but the birds. The great flocks that pour across whole continents twice a year. Thousands of miles. Over oceans and mountains and the wide dark night. How do they know the way? Some of them fly at night, alone. Young ones who've never made the journey before and have no older bird to follow. And still they find it. The same distant marsh, the same warm coast, as if the map were folded up inside them from the start. And part of the answer, it seems, is almost magical. Many birds can sense the Earth's magnetic field. The whole planet is wrapped in an invisible field, gentle and everywhere, the same thing that tugs a compass needle north, and birds appear to feel it, to read it, to steer by it the way you or I might follow a road. But exactly how they do that, what tiny piece inside a bird actually senses that field and turns it into a direction, that we still can't fully explain. There are hints that it happens somewhere in their eyes, that they might, in some strange way, we can barely imagine, almost see the magnetism as a kind of pattern laid over the world. Imagine that, lifting off in the dark and simply knowing which way is home, guided by a force you can feel but never touch. All those wings, all those miles, all that certainty. And the how of it is still a whispered secret between the birds and the sky. Let them fly on through your mind, high and quiet and sure, going where they've always gone, while you stay warm and still, and let yourself be carried too. In, soft and unhurried, and out, everything loosening, everything slowing. One more before we drift on. Think about sand, a whole handful of it, or a whole beach. Each grain is a tiny solid thing, hard as a little pebble. But pour a pile of sand out, and it flows almost like water, running through your fingers, settling into that neat, gentle slope. Squeeze it in your fist, and it holds together like a solid. Walk on wet sand at the shoreline, and it goes firm beneath your feet, then softens again the moment you lift away. So what is it? A solid or a liquid? The honest answer is that piles of small grains behave like something in between. And the physics of how they move, how they pack together, when they'll hold and when they'll suddenly give way and slide, is still surprisingly poorly understood. It matters more than you'd think. It's the same puzzle behind grain settling in a silo, behind the slow creep of a dune, behind how a hillside decides, all at once, to let go. Something you've held 1,000 times, something children shape into castles without a single thought, and the deep rules of how it flows and freezes are still being worked out. A beach is a physics problem no one has fully solved, dressed up as the most ordinary thing in the world. And you can build a castle on it anyway. You always could. You see the pattern by now, don't you? Soft and steady, thread after thread. The glass in the window, and the laugh you can't give yourself. The swirl behind the stone, and the letters in your blood. The backwards heat of the sun. The birds reading the sky. The sand that flows and holds. Not one of them finished. Not one of them settled. And not one of them needing a single thing from you tonight. They've waited lifetimes to be understood. They can wait a little longer while you rest. So let them all go quiet now, one by one, like lights dimming softly in a long hallway. There's nothing here to solve. There's nothing here to hold. There's only your breath, slow and easy, and the warm dark closing gently around you, and all these beautiful unfinished things keeping watch while you sink down a little further, and further still. Breathe with me here, one more slow one. In, letting the air fill you all the way down, and out, unhurried, like a tide sliding back from the shore. Let me give you something you carry in your own mouth, something you use every single day, without a second thought. Taste. You bite into something sweet, and there it is, that little brightness. Something sour, and your whole face knows it before you've even finished the thought. We've mapped the little sensors on your tongue. We know there are a handful of basic tastes: sweet, salty, sour, bitter, and that deep savory one. And we can point to the tiny structures that catch each one. But here's the soft, strange part: how all of that turns into the actual feeling of flavor. The full, rich experience of a warm bowl of soup on a cold night. Or the exact taste of a strawberry that makes you close your eyes. That whole leap from little chemical signals to the private, glowing sensation of enjoying something is still a mystery. Your brain builds the taste. It weaves together what's on your tongue, what you're smelling, even what you're seeing and remembering. And out of all of it comes this single seamless thing you just call flavor. And nobody can fully explain how that weaving happens, how a scattering of signals becomes something you'd call delicious. Something you've done since before you could talk, and the deep how of it is still open. Isn't that a gentle thing to rest on? That even a spoonful of something warm holds a puzzle no one has solved. And smell, its quiet partner, is even stranger. You'd think it would be simple. A smell drifts in. Some little shape locks into some little sensor, and your nose says, "Ah, coffee. Ah, rain. Ah, bread in the oven." But the truth is, we still don't really understand how you smell things at all. Not fully. There's a long, gentle argument in science about what your nose is actually detecting. Whether it's the shape of each little scent particle, or something even subtler, something about the way those particles quiver and vibrate. Think about that for a moment. You can walk into a room and know instantly that someone baked here hours ago. You can catch one thread of a scent and be pulled 30 years back, to a kitchen, to a person, to a feeling you thought was long gone. Smell reaches memory more directly than almost anything else we have, straight past all the thinking parts of you, right into the old warm heart of things. And the plain mechanics of it, how the particle in the air becomes the knowing in your mind, is still not settled. All those scents you've loved, all those places a single smell can carry you. And the machinery underneath is still a soft, open question. Let it drift, that thought, like the smell of something good cooking somewhere far off, warm and blurred at the edges. In, slow and easy. And out, everything sinking a little heavier into the bed beneath you. Here's one that's happening on your very skin, right now, even as you lie here. Healing. Somewhere on your body, there's probably a small nick, a scratch, a place that's mending itself without you asking it to. And when you really look at how a wound closes, it's astonishing. The cells at the edges seem to know there's a gap. They shift and multiply and crawl slowly inward, filling the space. And then, this is the beautiful part, they stop. They know when to stop. They rebuild just enough and no more. And then they settle back into being ordinary, quiet skin again. How do they know? How does a crowd of tiny cells, none of them able to see the whole picture, somehow agree on where the edge is, how much to build? When the job is done, we understand pieces of it, the signals they pass to one another like whispers down a line. But the full choreography of it, the way your body quietly repairs itself while you sleep and think of nothing at all, is still not completely understood. You are being mended tonight, gently, from the inside, by a process even the wisest minds can't fully explain. Let that be a comfort. You don't have to do a single thing. It's already happening. It always was. And that leads to a bigger, softer one, the deepest one of all in the body. Why we age at all. It seems so obvious, doesn't it, that things wear down. But your body isn't a machine that simply runs out of parts. It's constantly rebuilding itself, swapping out old cells for new ones, over and over, all your life. So the strange question is not really why we wear out. It's why the rebuilding slowly, gently loses a step over the years. Why the copies become just a little softer around the edges each time. There are threads scientists follow, little caps on the ends of your cell's instructions that shorten with time. A slow gathering of tiny errors, the quiet dimming of the cell's little engines. But the whole story, the real reason a living thing ripens and mellows and finally winds down, is still one of the great open questions. And there's something oddly peaceful in that. lying here in the dark. That the oldest, most certain seeming fact about being alive, that we grow older, is, underneath, still a mystery being turned over gently by people who don't have the answer yet. You don't have to solve it. You just get to be here, breathing, tonight, exactly the age you are, warm and whole and enough. In, soft and unhurried. Hold it just a heartbeat. And out, long and slow, letting your jaw unclench, your tongue go loose, your whole face grow heavy and calm. Let me lift you up off the earth again for a little while, up past the birds, past the clouds, out into the wide, quiet dark. Gravity. Now, this one you might think we've got figured out. After all, we've known about gravity for centuries. We can predict where the planets will be. We've sent little machines flying across the whole solar system and landed them exactly where we wanted. But here's the soft, humbling truth. We can describe what gravity does with beautiful precision, and we still can't fully explain what it actually is. It's the strangest of all the forces. It's by far the weakest. Think about it. A tiny magnet can lift a paperclip right off the table, beating the pull of the entire planet underneath it. And yet gravity is the one that shapes everything vast, that gathers stars into slow spinning wheels, that holds galaxies together across distances too enormous to picture. And the deep laws that rule the very smallest things, the tiny flickering particles, don't fit together neatly with the laws that rule gravity and the very largest things. They're like two beautiful languages that don't quite translate. For 100 years, the brightest minds we've ever had have been trying to find the single sentence that says both at once, and no one has finished it. So when you feel your body pressing gently down into the mattress right now, that soft, sure weight holding you to the bed and to the earth, that's gravity. The most familiar feeling in the world, the one that's cradling you into your pillow this very moment, and no one alive can tell you fully what it is. Let it hold you. Let it press you down, kind and steady, into the warm shape of the bed. And out there, in that same dark, there's something even quieter and stranger. When astronomers look at the great spinning wheels of stars, the galaxies, they turn far too fast. By all the rules we know, they should fly apart, scatter into the dark like sparks. Something is holding them together. Some vast, gentle, invisible weight spread all through space. We can't see it. We can't touch it. We only know it by its soft pull on the things we can see. We've given it a name. We call it dark matter. But a name isn't an answer. The plain truth is that most of the stuff holding the universe together is something we've never once directly seen, and we still don't know what it is. Isn't that a wonder to sink into? That the cosmos is mostly made of a quiet mystery, an unseen hand cradling every galaxy the way the dark is cradling you tonight. You're floating in a universe that is mostly secret, and it's holding together just fine. It doesn't need you to understand it. It only asks that you rest inside it, in, gently, and out, drifting a little further now, thoughts growing soft and slow and far apart. Let me bring you back down, back to something small and near and human. Laughter, not the yawning or the blushing we touched before, but the laugh itself. The real helpless kind. Have you ever thought about how odd it is? Something strikes you as funny, and your body just does this. This rhythmic, breathless, slightly ridiculous thing. This sound you didn't decide to make. And here's the part that stays unexplained. we still don't really know why we laugh deep down, what it's for. It seems to be something we do together, a kind of glue between people. You're far more likely to laugh with someone than alone. It ripples through a room. It passes from person to person like warmth. Babies laugh before they can speak a single word. People who've never heard a sound in their lives laugh just the same. It runs deeper than language, deeper than thought. And yet the reason it's stitched so deeply into us, the real purpose of that lovely, useless music, is still something science is turning over gently, without a final answer. Something that has carried you through your whole life, that has bound you to the people you love, and no one can fully say why it's there. Let that be a soft thing to hold, that even joy keeps its secrets. And close beside it, its quiet opposite, tears. You cry when you're sad, of course, but you also cry when you're overwhelmed with happiness, at a wedding, at a homecoming, at something almost unbearably beautiful. Why? No other creature does this, sheds tears from pure feeling, from the heart rather than from dust or wind. It seems to reach out to others, a signal that says something inside me is too big to hold. Come close. But the full reason we do it, why deep emotion should spill out of us as warm salt water, is still not truly understood. Something so ordinary, you've done it 100 times. Something children do freely and easily. And underneath it lies a small unsolved thing. And maybe that's the tenderest mystery of all, that our feelings run so deep they overflow the body. And even now, no one can quite explain the how or the why of it. In, slow and soft. And out, longer still. Everything in you loosening, letting go, sinking down. You feel it, don't you? The way these all rhyme with each other. The taste on your tongue and the scent that carries you home. The skin quietly mending and the years quietly turning. The weight that holds you to the bed and the unseen weight that holds the stars. The laugh and the tear that both spill up out of somewhere too deep to name. Every one of them close to you. Every one of them a part of the ordinary miracle of being a person, alive on this particular night, and not one of them finished, not one of them fully known. They ask nothing of you. They only keep you company here in the dark, a whole quiet crowd of beautiful unanswered things, sitting softly at the edge of your bed while you drift. There's nothing to solve. There's nothing to reach for. There's only the slow rise and fall of your own breathing, the warm dark folding gently in around you, and all these gentle mysteries watching over you as you sink a little lower and lower still, letting the whole world grow soft and dim and far away. Stay with me just a little longer, though. Not because there's anywhere to be. There isn't. Not tonight. But because there are a few more of these gentle, unfinished things waiting quietly in the dark, and they'd like to keep you company as you sink. Here's a small one, close to home. Look at your two hands again, resting there. Chances are, one of them does most of the work, the writing, the reaching, the careful things. For most people, it's the right. For about 1 in 10 of us, it's the left. And nobody really knows why. We've been left-handed and right-handed for as long as there have been people. You can see it in the old cave paintings, the way the hands were pressed to the stone, the way the tools were worn. It runs a little in families, but not in any tidy way. Twins, born from the very same beginning, can favor different hands. And here's the part that stays soft and open. No one can fully say what decides it, or why our species settled so lopsidedly on the right, or why that one stubborn tenth of us leans the other way, generation after generation, all over the world, in every culture that has ever lived. It's not a flaw. It's not a mistake. It's just this quiet little coin flip that happens somewhere deep before you're even born. And it stays with you your whole life, in every signature, every wave goodbye, every hand you ever reach out to hold. Something as ordinary as which hand picks up the spoon, and underneath it, a small unanswered question, resting there in your palm as you drift. And out, slow and long, letting that hand go soft and heavy on the blanket. Now let me take you out to the tall grass for a moment, somewhere warm, where the light is gold and low. Picture a zebra standing there, those bold black and white stripes shimmering in the heat. You've seen them 1,000 times, and you'd think, surely by now, we know exactly what they're for. But we don't. Not really. People have been arguing about zebra stripes for more than 150 years. Some of the brightest minds who ever studied living things, and they still can't fully agree. Maybe the stripes confuse the big cats that hunt them, making it hard to pick one zebra out of a moving, dazzling herd. Maybe they keep the animal cool, the black and white bands stirring up little currents of air across the skin. Or maybe, and this is the one that quietly delights me, maybe it's the flies. There's a kind of biting fly that seems to hate landing on stripes, gets confused by them somehow, veers away at the last second. So the whole gorgeous pattern might be, in the end, a way of saying no thank you to a fly. We're honestly not sure which of these is the real reason, or whether it's all of them at once, woven together. Something so striking, so unmistakable, painted on an animal you've known since you were a child. And science is still standing in the tall grass, squinting at it, wondering. Let that picture stay with you a moment, the stripes swaying gently as the zebra grazes, the whole warm afternoon slowing down. Here's another that glows in the dark, and it's one of the loveliest. On certain summer nights, in certain corners of the world, there are fireflies that flash all together, not scattered, not random, synchronized. Thousands upon thousands of them in the trees along a river, blinking on and off as one, the whole forest pulsing with light like a single slow heartbeat. On and off, on and off. People travel for miles just to sit in the dark and watch it happen. And the gentle mystery is this: how do they do it? There's no conductor out there, no firefly in charge, no signal being sent from above. Each little insect is just watching its neighbors and adjusting over and over, until somehow all those separate small flickers fold into one great rhythm that stretches across a whole valley. We can describe it. We can even write down the shape of how it might happen. But the full story of why they bother, what each one truly gains from falling into step with all the rest, still isn't nailed down. And it's not only fireflies. The deep sea is full of creatures that make their own light, glowing and pulsing down in the black. And for so many of them, we still don't fully understand what the light is saying or who it's meant for. Imagine that as you lie here, a warm, dark forest, breathing with light, thousands of tiny lamps rising and falling together, and no one quite able to explain the music of it. Let it glow softly at the back of your closed eyes, in through the nose, slow, and out, everything easing down another gentle inch. Now here's one that lives in the water, and it has puzzled people for thousands of years, since the very oldest days, since the first curious minds ever thought to ask. The eel, that long, quiet, river-dwelling creature you might find in a slow stream or a still pond. For most of human history, nobody could figure out where baby eels came from. People searched and never found a single eel egg, never found a young one being born in the rivers where the grown eels lived. Some of the greatest thinkers of the ancient world simply threw up their hands and decided eels must appear out of the mud itself, out of nothing at all. And it turns out the truth is even stranger and more beautiful than that. The eels in the rivers of Europe, when their time comes, slip downstream to the sea and swim for thousands of miles across the whole wide ocean to one particular patch of warm, weed-choked water in the middle of the Atlantic, a place called the Sargasso Sea. And there, somewhere out in that endless blue, they breed and they die, and their tiny young drift all the way back, over years, to the very rivers their parents left. But here's the thing that still isn't solved. No one has ever truly watched them do it. No one has ever found the grown eels spawning out there in the deep. We know they go. We know the little ones come back. But the heart of it, the actual moment, the how of that impossible journey home through a trackless ocean, it's still hidden from us, even now, after all this time. Something as humble as an eel in a muddy stream, carrying one of the oldest unsolved secrets on Earth. Let that carry you too, a long, slow drift through warm, dark water toward a home you somehow already know. And out, longer still, sinking down toward that same quiet place. Let me lift you back up now, gently, off the water and into the sky, all the way up to the sun. You know the sun is hot. Of course it is. Its bright surface, the part we see, burns at something like 5,500 degrees. That much makes sense. It's a great ball of fire, and its face is fierce. But here's the thing that has quietly baffled the people who study the sun for decades. Above that blazing surface, floating out around it like a faint crown, there's a thin layer of the sun's atmosphere. And that outer layer, the part that's farther from the fire, farther from the heart of all that heat, is not cooler. It's hotter, wildly, impossibly hotter. Not by a little. The surface sits at those 5,500 degrees, and the wispy crown around it roars up to 1,000,000 degrees, sometimes more. Think about how strange that is. It's as though you stepped back from a campfire to get away from the heat, and the farther back you walked, the warmer it got. Every instinct you have says it should be the other way around. Something is pouring energy into that outer layer, heating it far past the fire below. And after all these years, with all our telescopes and all our clever instruments watching the sun every single day, we still can't fully explain what that something is. The star that lights your whole world, that has warmed every morning of your entire life, is still keeping this one quiet secret glowing in plain sight, 93 million miles away. Let that warmth reach you here in the dark, gentle and far off. Nothing you need to understand, just something lovely to rest beneath. And here's one more before we drift on, the biggest and softest of them all. When the people who study the whole universe look out as far as they possibly can, they can see that everything is spreading apart. All the great islands of stars, all the galaxies, drifting away from each other. The whole cosmos slowly opening up, like a breath being let out across billions of years. That much we've known for a while. But not so long ago, they discovered something that stopped everyone cold. The spreading isn't slowing down the way you'd expect it to. The way a ball tossed in the air slows as it rises. It's speeding up. Something is pushing the whole universe apart, faster and faster, and no one has any real idea what it is. They've given it a name. They call it dark energy. But the name is really just a polite word for we don't know. It seems to make up most of everything there is. This vast invisible push, far more of it than all the stars and planets and people and dust combined. And we cannot see it, cannot catch it, cannot say what it's made of or where it comes from. The single largest thing in all of existence. The force quietly deciding the fate of the entire universe. And it's a complete mystery, sitting there in the dark, patient and enormous and utterly unbothered by our not knowing. Isn't that a strangely comforting thought to fall asleep to? That even the universe itself, in its grandest and most sweeping motion, is unfinished business, still unknown, still unsolved, still gently keeping its secrets, the same as all these smaller wonders resting here around your bed. You're in good company tonight. The whole cosmos doesn't have the answers either, and look how peacefully it keeps on turning. In, slow and soft, and out, letting even the universe grow quiet and far away. So let them gather, all of these, the hand that writes without being told, the stripes shimmering in the tall gold grass, the forest breathing with light, the eel swimming home across an ocean it has never seen, the strange warm crown around the sun, and the whole vast sky drifting endlessly apart. Not one of them finished, not one of them fully known, and not one of them asking a single thing of you tonight. They're only here, close and calm, a soft crowd of beautiful unanswered things, keeping watch at the edge of your bed while you sink lower and lower still into the warm and patient dark. Let me stay here with you a little longer, drifting from one soft mystery to the next. Nothing urgent, nothing you need to carry. Here's a small one, and it might make you smile. Some people, when they step out of a shadowy room into bright sunlight, sneeze, just like that. A little burst, one or two or three of them, set off by nothing but the light hitting their eyes. It runs in families, passed down quietly from parent to child, like the shape of a nose or the color of the hair. And you'd think, wouldn't you, that something so common, something that happens to maybe 1 in every 3 or 4 people, would have a tidy explanation by now. But it doesn't. The best guess is that somewhere in the tangled wiring of the nerves in your face, the signal for bright light and the signal for tickle in the nose cross paths, and the brain gets its wires just slightly crossed, and out comes a sneeze. But nobody can say for sure why, or why only some people have it and others don't. It's harmless, it's funny, it's been noticed for thousands of years. Even the old Greek thinkers wrote about it, sitting in the sun, wondering the same thing we still wonder now. Isn't that a lovely little thread to lie here holding? A tiny quirk, passed down through countless grandparents and great-grandparents, still not quite explained, still gently baffling us. And it asks nothing of you tonight. You don't have to solve it. You can just let it drift past, light as dust in a sunbeam, and sink a little deeper into the warm. In through the nose, slow and soft, and out, letting your whole body grow heavier against the bed. Here's another one, closer to home than you might think. It's right there in your own hands again, in which one you reach with. Most people in the world lead with the right hand, but some, about 1 in 10, lead with the left, and a rare few can move easily with either. And here's the quiet, strange part. We don't really know why. We've been left-handed and right-handed for a very, very long time. If you look at the ancient handprints people pressed onto cave walls tens of thousands of years ago, back when the world was all firelight and open sky, you can see the same split, roughly the same 9 in 10, leaning right. It's older than writing, older than farming, older than almost anything we'd call human history, and no one can fully explain what decides it. It isn't as simple as one thing passed down from your mother or your father. It seems to be a soft tangle of many little influences, some in your nature, some in the quiet months before you were even born, coming together to gently tip the balance one way or the other. And no one knows why the world settled on that particular split, why it stayed so steady across so many thousands of years, why nature seems to like keeping a small handful of us leading with the left. Your hands know which one they favor without ever being told. They've known your whole life. And still, the reason underneath it all stays soft and unsettled. A small, unsolved thing resting quietly in the very way you reach for a cup of tea. Let that settle over you now, gentle and near. In, gently. Hold it just a heartbeat. And out, long and slow, everything loosening. Let me give you one that pours and moves and flows, and it's everywhere, all around you, all the time. It's the way water tumbles, or smoke curls up from something warm, or cream swirls into coffee in those soft folding ribbons. Scientists have a word for that wild, churning, restless motion. They call it turbulence. And here's the thing that might surprise you. It's one of the oldest unsolved puzzles in all of physics. We can send machines to the far edges of the solar system. We can split the tiniest pieces of matter. But we still cannot fully, truly explain the way a river braids itself around a stone, or the way the air rolls and tumbles behind a moving plane, or the way steam rises off a cup and breaks into those endless, folding curls. One of the great thinkers of the last century, a man who understood more of the deep laws of nature than almost anyone alive, was said to have joked that when he finally met his maker, he'd only ask about 2 things. And turbulence was one of them. Because it's that hard. All that swirling, all that endless, beautiful complication, and the neat equations we'd love to use just slip through our fingers like the water itself. So the next time you stir something warm and watch the ribbons fold and vanish, know that you're looking at one of the deepest mysteries there is, hiding in the most ordinary little moment. And right now, you don't need to understand a drop of it. Just picture that soft swirl of cream and coffee folding slowly into itself, and let your thoughts fold and slow along with it. In, soft and unhurried, and out, drifting a little further down. Here's one that lives in the ground beneath the grass, small and quiet and endlessly clever. Ants. A single ant, on its own, isn't much. It wanders, it bumps around, it follows a few simple little rules, and it hasn't the faintest idea of any bigger picture. But put thousands of them together, and something remarkable happens. The whole colony starts to behave almost like one single creature, one soft-thinking thing. They find the shortest path to food without anyone drawing a map. They build tunnels with rooms and gentle passageways, and even a kind of airflow to keep the deep chambers fresh. They farm, some of them, actually tending little gardens of fungus underground. And when the rains come, some kinds link their bodies together, thousands of them, and form a living raft that floats safe on the water, every ant taking its turn on the wet underside. Nobody's in charge. There's no leader handing out instructions, not even the queen. She just lays the eggs. All of that order, all that cleverness, seems to rise up out of nothing but a great many tiny creatures, each following a few simple urges. And how simple rules turn into something that behaves so wisely, so much like a single mind. That's a mystery scientists are still gently untangling. We call it emergence, that word for the whole becoming somehow greater and stranger than all its little parts. And it's happening right now, in the dark soil under 1,000 gardens. Whole quiet civilizations rising and thinking and floating without a single one of them ever knowing how. Let that image carry you down. All those small lives, working softly together in the warm, dark earth, asking nothing of you at all. In, letting the air fill you all the way down. And out, like a slow tide sliding back from the shore. And here's one that's bigger and older than all of us. It's about the water itself. All that water, the oceans and the rivers and the rain, the very water inside your own body right now, warm and quiet as you breathe. Where did it all come from? You'd think that would be a settled thing, wouldn't you? Water's the most ordinary substance in the world. We're mostly made of it. The whole planet is soaked and wrapped and covered in it. But the truth is, scientists still aren't entirely sure how the young Earth got so wet. When our world first formed, long, long ago, it was a hot and violent place, far too fierce to simply hold on to oceans. So the water had to come from somewhere, arrive somehow. Some think it was carried in slowly, over ages, by countless icy visitors from the far cold edges of space, comets and ancient rocks, each one bringing its small share of frost, drop by drop and age by age, until the whole planet had gathered itself an ocean. Others think much of it was here all along, locked deep inside the rock, seeping slowly up and out over unimaginable stretches of time. Most likely, it's some soft mixture of both, and the exact story is still being pieced together, still argued over gently by people who've spent their whole lives on the question. So the water you'll drink tomorrow morning, the water that carries your blood and softens your voice and wells up in your eyes. Some of it may have drifted here from the deep and frozen dark between the stars, older than the sun, older than the earth, patient beyond all imagining before it ever became a part of you. Isn't that a wondrous thing to hold as you fall? That the sea and the rain and the tears and the warm tide of your own breath might all trace back to some frozen wanderer from the beginning of everything. And it's still a mystery, still unfinished, still gently unsolved. You can just let it wash over you now, ancient and soft and near. In, slow and soft. And out, everything in you sinking, letting go. You feel how they keep rhyming, don't you? The sneeze set off by sunlight, and the hand that leads without being asked. The swirl of cream in a warm cup, and the swirl of ants in the dark soil. The water in the deep sea, and the water rising in your own quiet eyes. All these small, unsolved things, folding softly into one another. None of them finished, none of them needing you tonight. Here's one more before we drift a little lower, and it's a strange and gentle one. There's a humble little living thing, not a plant and not really an animal, called a slime mold. It's a soft yellow sort of thing that spreads across the damp forest floor, slow as syrup, feeding on the quiet rot beneath the leaves. It has no brain, not even the smallest, simplest bundle of nerves. Nothing you could point to and call a mind at all, and yet put it in a maze with food at two far ends, and it will find the shortest path between them, gently pulling itself back from every wrong turn until it stretches in one clean, efficient line. Researchers once laid out little flakes of food in the exact pattern of the great cities around a huge, sprawling region, and the slime mold, over a day or two, grew itself into a network connecting them. And it came out startlingly close to the actual map of railways that human engineers had spent years and years designing. A brainless smear of yellow, solving in a couple of quiet days what took clever people decades. How? How does something with no mind at all seem to figure things out, seem to remember, seem to choose? Nobody can fully say. It bends every neat idea we have about what thinking even is, about where cleverness comes from, and whether you need a brain to have it at all. And it's out there right now, in some cool, damp wood, spreading slow and patient across a fallen log, quietly solving problems in the dark, without the faintest notion that it's doing anything wonderful at all. Let that carry you down another soft inch. The whole living world thinking in ways we can't explain, all around you, all the time, and none of it asking a single thing of you here in your warm and quiet bed. In through the nose, slow, and out, everything easing down, heavier and softer and further away. So let them keep gathering at the edge of your bed, this growing, gentle crowd. The sneeze that answers the sun, the hand that quietly favors its side, the endless folding swirl of water and smoke, the small dark civilizations under the grass, the ancient sea that may have fallen from the stars, and the brainless little thing in the forest that somehow finds its way. Not one of them solved, not one of them finished, not one of them the least bit troubled by our not knowing. They're only here, close and calm and kind, keeping their soft watch while you sink lower still and lower into the warm and patient dark. In one more time, slow and full. And out, long and easy, letting it all grow quiet and far away. Let me carry you softly onward now, into a few more of these quiet, unsolved things. None of them heavy, none of them needing anything from you at all. Here's one that's been with you your whole life. So close, you've probably never once wondered about it. When you look at something, this room, a face, the branches of a tree against the sky, the light comes into your eyes and lands as a kind of scattered, upside-down, flickering mess on the back of each eye. Just a spray of light and shadow, really, changing every time you so much as twitch. And yet somehow, out of that chaos, you see a whole steady world. A world with depth, with things that stay put, with edges and distances and meaning, Somewhere between your eyes and the deep folds of your brain, all that jumble gets turned into the seamless, solid picture you're looking at right now with your eyes half closed. And here's the strange part. No one can fully explain how that final picture actually appears to you. We can trace the light. We can follow the signals firing along the nerves, cell to cell, deeper and deeper in. But the moment where it all becomes seeing, where it stops being electricity and starts being the warm, lived experience of a room in soft light, that moment slips right through our fingers every time we reach for it. You are doing something right now, just by looking, that the finest minds who ever lived cannot account for. And you're doing it effortlessly, half asleep, without the slightest strain. Let that settle over you like a blanket. The plain miracle of seeing, unexplained, happening gently behind your own two heavy eyelids. In through the nose, slow and soft, and out, letting the whole picture grow dim and warm and far away. Here's another, and it's a small everyday thing that hides a real puzzle inside it. Think about a wave rolling in toward a shore. You've watched them do it, the water lifting and curling and finally tumbling over into white foam. It looks so simple, so smooth. But underneath, the way water actually flows, the way it churns and tumbles and breaks into those endless swirling shapes, is one of the great unsolved problems in all of science. It has a name. They call it turbulence. The tumbling of cream into your coffee, the smoke curling up off a candle just snuffed out, the roll of water down a river, the swirl of air off the tip of a wing. All of it follows this restless, tangled dance that no one has ever been able to fully pin down with a neat set of rules. There are equations, yes, beautiful old ones, and to this day, nobody can even prove for certain that they always give a sensible answer. A prize has sat there for years, waiting for anyone clever enough to solve it, and it just keeps waiting. Something as ordinary as water pouring from a jug holds a knot our sharpest thinkers still cannot untie. Isn't that a soft thing to rest in? That the plainest motions of the world, the pour, the swirl, the tumble, are still, at their heart, a lovely open question. Let it move through you slow and warm, like water finding its own way downhill in the dark. In, gently, hold it just a heartbeat, and out, long and slow, everything loosening, everything easing down. Let me give you one that lives inside your own chest, faithful and quiet, beating away while you drift. Your heart. It started before you were born, long before, and it has never once stopped to rest. Not for a single moment in all your years. Beat after beat after beat, through every day and every night you've ever lived, through your childhood, through today, right up to this very breath. And here's the gentle mystery of it. Deep in the muscle of your heart, there's a tiny patch of special cells, a little natural pacemaker, and they set the rhythm, quietly telling the whole heart when to squeeze and when to let go. But what makes those cells keep their own steady time, on and on, without ever needing you to think about it, without ever tiring the way any other muscle would, that we still don't fully understand. You could run every muscle in your body to exhaustion in an afternoon. But this one, this soft, insistent one, has been working your entire life and will keep right on through this whole story and all the sleep that comes after, asking nothing of you, needing no thanks, no attention, no worry. Just lie here and feel it if you like. That patient drum somewhere under everything, keeping its own faithful time. You don't have to tell it what to do. You never have. It simply carries you, night after night, down into rest. In, soft and unhurried. And out, sinking a little deeper with every slow beat. Here's one that comes and goes with the seasons. And it's a gentle sort of puzzle. When the cold months come and the light grows short, some people feel themselves grow slow and heavy, wanting nothing more than to curl up and sleep more, eat more, go quiet and inward. And when the light comes back in spring, something lifts, and they feel awake again, lighter, moving out into the world. We know it has something to do with light, with how the changing length of the days reaches in through the eyes and stirs the old clockwork buried deep in the brain. But the full workings of it, why it touches some people so strongly and others hardly at all, how exactly the fading light turns into that heavy, dreamy pull toward rest, much of that is still unmapped. And there's something so old and animal about it, isn't there? The bear folding itself into the winter den, the trees letting their leaves fall and going still, and somewhere in us, a soft echo of the same ancient rhythm, a body that still remembers on some deep level that when the dark grows long, it's time to rest. Maybe you feel a little of that right now, the pull toward stillness, the sweetness of going quiet and an inward. It's a very old feeling. It has carried living things down into rest for millions upon millions of years. Let it carry you too, in, letting the air fill you all the way down and out, like a slow tide sliding back from the shore. Let me tell you about something that happens in every quiet field on a summer evening, and no one can quite explain the whole of it. The sound of crickets, that soft, steady, rising and falling shimmer of sound that fills the warm dark. Each little cricket is rubbing its wings together to sing, and on a warm night, across a whole meadow, thousands of them somehow slide into rhythm with one another, their songs rising and falling together in slow, gentle waves, as if the whole field were breathing. No conductor, no leader, no one telling them how, just thousands of tiny voices in the grass, drifting into time with each other the way the fireflies find their shared flash, the way so many living things somehow fall into step without ever meaning to. How a scattered crowd of small creatures, each one only listening to the few nearest neighbors, can weave itself into one great shimmering rhythm across a whole dark field. That's a question that still doesn't have a tidy answer. But you don't need the answer to love the sound of it. Picture it now if you like. A warm meadow under the stars, the grass cool and dark, and that soft pulsing shimmer of cricket song rising and falling, like the whole night itself was breathing slow beside you. Let that gentle rhythm rock you down another inch. In through the nose, slow and soft. And out, everything easing, everything growing soft and far. Here's a small one, close to home, something you've felt 1,000 times without a name for it. That feeling when you walk into a room and can't for the life of you remember why you came. You were sure, just a moment ago, standing in the other room, there was a reason, clear as day. And then you cross the threshold, you step through the doorway, and it's simply gone. Vanished, like it slipped out through the doorway ahead of you. And here's the funny, quiet truth of it. The doorway itself seems to be part of the cause. Something about passing from one room into another, one space into another, gently sweeps the little thought clean away, as though your mind files the old room shut behind you and opens a fresh, empty page for the new one. Why the mind should do that? Why the simple act of walking through a door should tidy away the very thought you were carrying? We don't entirely know. But there's something almost kind about it, isn't there? A mind that clears itself as you move from place to place, letting go of what you were carrying, making room, starting fresh. Maybe that's a lovely thing to borrow tonight. The gift of letting a thought simply slip away as you cross from one place into another, from waking into sleep, from the long day into the soft dark. You don't have to hold on to any of it. Let it go through the doorway ahead of you, and don't go chasing after. In, gently. Hold it just a heartbeat, and out, long and slow, letting whatever you were holding drift quietly away. Let me give you one more before we sink lower still, and it's a very old and gentle one, the moon. It's been hanging up there your whole life, over every night you've ever slept through. And here's a thing most people never pause on. The moon is strangely, wonderfully large, far bigger compared to its planet than almost any other moon we know circling any other world. And how it came to be there, keeping its faithful watch over us, is still not fully settled. The best guess is a tremendous one, that long, long ago, when the earth was young and molten, another whole world came drifting in and struck it. And out of that ancient collision, a great spray of glowing debris was flung into the dark. And slowly, over ages, it gathered itself together and cooled and became the moon, a piece of the young earth thrown into the sky that became the soft silver light watching over all our nights. But even that story has its loose threads, its stubborn puzzles the scientists are still turning over. What we do know is gentler and more certain, that the moon has been there for every single night of every life that has ever been lived, that it pulled the tides that rocked the first living things, that it has looked down on every sleeper who ever laid their head down in the dark, all the way back and all the way up to you, right now, resting here. The same moon, the same soft, patient, unexplained light. It doesn't need you to solve it. It only keeps its quiet watch, as it always has, while you drift down beneath it into rest. In, slow and easy, and out. Everything sinking heavier and softer into the bed beneath you. You feel how they all keep folding together, don't you? The seeing that turns light into a whole warm world. The water that swirls in ways no one can pin down. The little drum in your chest that never tires. The old pull toward rest when the dark grows long. The field of crickets breathing as one. The thought that slips away through a doorway. And the silver moon born out of some ancient blow, keeping its watch over every night there's ever been. Not one of them solved, not one of them finished, not one of them the least bit troubled by our not knowing. They only gather here at the soft edge of your bed, this growing, gentle crowd, close and calm and kind, keeping their quiet company while you sink lower and lower into the warm and patient dark. In, one more time, slow and full. And out, long and easy, letting it all grow quiet, letting it all grow far away. Let me carry you softly onward now, into a few more of these quiet, unsolved things. And this next one lives out in the open ocean, in the long dark of the sea. the sea turtle. A little one hatches on some warm beach in the middle of the night, no bigger than the palm of your hand, and it scrambles down across the sand and slips into the waves and swims out into the enormous dark water. And then, for years and years, it wanders across whole oceans, thousands of miles, through storms and currents and the wide trackless blue. And here's the part that no one has fully worked out. When that turtle is grown, when it's ready to lay its own eggs, it turns around and swims back, all that impossible distance, to the very same stretch of beach where it was born. The same one. Not the neighborhood, not the general area, the exact shore. How does it hold that place in its mind through all those years and all those miles of open water? The best guess we have is that the turtle can somehow feel the Earth's own magnetism, that every beach has its own faint magnetic signature, like a soft note the planet hums, and the little turtle learns that note on the night it's born and carries it, and carries it, and follows it home. But how it stores that, how it reads it, how something so small holds a whole ocean's worth of direction inside it, that's still a mystery. Isn't that a gentle thing to sink into? Somewhere out there tonight, in the dark, warm water, a turtle is swimming home to a beach it hasn't seen in 20 years, following a song from the earth itself that no one else can hear. In, slow and soft, and out, letting yourself drift out over that quiet water with it. Let me give you one that lives right on your own skin, something that happens to you and everyone you've ever known. Goosebumps. You feel a chill, or you hear a piece of music that moves you, or something brushes the back of your neck, and your skin prickles up into all those tiny bumps, and the little hairs on your arms stand on end. Now, we understand the small machinery of it well enough. Each hair has a minute muscle at its root, and that muscle tightens and tugs the hair upright and puffs the skin up around it. That part's clear. What's stranger, what nobody's quite settled, is why you still do it at all. Because in a furry animal, it makes good sense. Puff up all that fur, and you look bigger to whatever's frightening you. Or you trap a warm layer of air against the cold. A frightened cat doubles in size that way, but you're not a furry animal, not really. Your little standing hairs don't make you look bigger and don't keep you warm. It's a leftover, an old reflex handed down from ancestors who had thick coats to raise, still firing away in your smooth modern skin for no real reason at all. And the loveliest part, the part science really can't pin down, is why a beautiful song sets it off. Why should a swell of music, a rising voice, make the same ancient chill run up your arms that a cold wind does? Nobody truly knows. Your body just reaches back 100,000 years and answers the music with a shiver. In, gently, and out, long and slow. That soft shiver settling, everything going warm and still. Here's one that falls quietly outside your window on the cold nights. Snow. You've heard it said 1,000 times. No two snowflakes are alike. And it sounds like the kind of pretty thing people say without meaning it. But as far as anyone can tell, it's actually true. Every single flake that has ever fallen, in every winter there has ever been, has been its own one-of-a-kind pattern, six-sided, delicate, never once repeated. And how a snowflake gets its shape is still full of loose ends. Each one begins as a speck of dust, high up in a cold cloud, with a little water freezing around it. And as it tumbles and drifts down through the sky, it passes through layers of different cold and different damp. And at every moment, the ice grows a tiny bit differently. A branch here, a fern frond there, an arm reaching out just so. The whole slow fall becomes a kind of record of the exact path it took through the clouds. And since no two flakes ever fall the very same way, no two ever come out the same. But the deeper puzzle, the one that still stumps the people who study it, is how the 6 arms of a single flake manage to grow in such perfect matching harmony, each arm branching in step with the others, as if they could somehow talk to one another across the whole crystal, when they can't. 6 arms growing all alone that somehow come out as mirror images. Millions of them falling right now, in the dark, over some far field. Everyone perfect, everyone different, everyone melting away by morning with no one to have ever seen it. In, soft and unhurried, and out, drifting down as gently as one of those flakes. Let me take you back out to the sea for this next one, down beneath the surface into the deep blue quiet, because there's a sound down there that no one fully understands. The songs of whales. The great whales, the humpbacks especially, sing long, winding, elaborate songs that can go on for hours and carry for hundreds of miles through the water. And these aren't just random calls. They have structure, phrases that repeat, parts that build on one another, almost like the verses of something. And here's the strange, quiet wonder of it. All the males in one great stretch of ocean sing the very same song in a given season. The same one. And then, slowly, over the months and years, the song changes. A new phrase creeps in, an old one drops away. And every whale updates his singing to match, all of them shifting together, keeping the song in step across thousands of miles of sea. Sometimes a new song will even travel, spreading from one ocean population to the next, like a tune that catches on, until whales an ocean away are singing what a distant group started. But what the songs mean, whether they're for courting, or for finding one another in the dark, or something we don't even have a word for, nobody can say for certain. Just that down in the deep tonight, in water blacker than any night sky, enormous gentle creatures are singing long, slow songs to one another, and have been singing them since long before there was anyone to listen. In, letting the air fill you all the way down, and out, like a slow tide sliding back from the shore. Here's one that's happening beneath you right now, beneath the whole world, all the time, so quiet no one ever feels it. The earth hums. The whole planet, it turns out, is very faintly ringing, a deep, steady, endless vibration, far, far too low for any ear to catch. A sound below the lowest note you could ever hear, thrumming away, without pause, year in and year out. For a long while, nobody even knew it was there. And then instruments got sensitive enough to feel it. And there it was. The earth quietly ringing like a struck bell that never quite goes still. And what keeps it humming is still being argued over. It isn't earthquakes. It goes on steadily, even when the ground is calm. The best thinking now is that it's the oceans, the endless weight of all those waves rising and falling and pressing down on the sea floor all over the world, drumming on the planet without cease, keeping it forever softly ringing. But the details, the whole of it, haven't been nailed down. Isn't that a peaceful thing to rest on? That the ground beneath your bed, beneath your whole town, beneath the mountains and the seas, is very gently singing one low, endless note, and always has been all through every night you've ever slept. A sound too deep and too soft for anyone to hear, holding the whole world in its quiet, steady hum. In, slow and soft, and out. Everything in you sinking down into that deep, quiet ring. Let me give you one more small one before we drift lower, and it's as close as your own skin. Something everyone feels, and no one can fully explain. The itch. Such a tiny, ordinary thing. A little tickle on your arm, and your hand goes to scratch it almost before you've decided to. But why an itch feels the way it does, and why scratching it feels so oddly satisfying, is still not really understood. For the longest time, people assumed an itch was just a mild sort of pain, riding the same nerves. But it turns out itching has its own separate set of pathways, its own private lines running up to the brain, all its own. And the strangest part, the part that catches people off guard, is how catching it is. You know how it goes. Just talking about itching, just picturing a little crawling thing on your skin, can be enough to make you feel it and want to scratch. It spreads from person to person like a yawn does, passed along by nothing but the thought of it. Why an itch should be contagious that way, why your body would answer someone else's itch with one of your own, nobody can say. It's another of those small, everyday puzzles you carry around in your own skin, never once thinking about it, until a quiet voice on a quiet night points at it and says, "Look, even this little thing, we don't really understand." In, gently. Hold it just a heartbeat. And out, long and slow, everything loosening, the last little tension melting away. You feel how they keep rhyming with one another, don't you? The turtle following the earth's faint song home across the sea, and the earth itself humming its own low, endless note beneath you. The shiver a cold wind raises on your arm, and the very same shiver a beautiful song can raise. The snowflake keeping the record of its whole long fall, and the whale song passed slowly from one deep singer to the next across the miles. Every one of them unfinished. Every one of them going on right now, in the dark, without needing you to watch or wonder or solve a single piece of it. They only gather here at the soft edge of your bed, this growing gentle crowd of quiet, unexplained things, keeping their patient company while you sink lower and warmer and further down into the dark. In, one more time, slow and full, and out, long and easy, letting it all grow quiet, letting it all grow far away. Let me carry you gently on into just a couple more of these soft little things, and then I'll let you go the rest of the way down, into the quiet, into the dark, into whatever gentle place is waiting for you tonight. Here's one that lives right inside your own head, and it's such a small, silly, familiar thing that you've probably never once thought of it as a mystery. A song gets stuck. You know the feeling. A little scrap of a tune, a few bars, a single line, and it just loops around and around in there, playing itself over and over long after you'd have chosen to switch it off. People have called it all sorts of names. An earworm, a sticky tune, a brain that won't stop humming. And nearly everyone in the world knows exactly what you mean the moment you describe it. And yet, for something so common, so completely ordinary, no one can really tell you why it happens. Why that particular tune on that particular day? Why a fragment of music should get caught in the machinery of the mind and go round and round like a leaf caught in a slow eddy at the edge of a stream. There are guesses, of course, that it's the brain filling a quiet moment or trying to finish something it left unfinished, tidying up a loose thread of sound. But the honest truth is that it's another of those little everyday puzzles no one has fully solved. And isn't it a soft thing, really, to think of the mind as this place where a tune can drift in on its own and stay a while, humming to itself in the background, asking nothing of you at all. You don't have to chase it. You don't have to name it. You can just let it play, very low, very far away, growing softer and slower with every breath, until even the tune itself grows drowsy and lies down and goes quiet. In, slow and soft, and out, everything in you loosening, sinking, going still. And here's the last little one I'll give you, and it's the softest and closest of them all, because it's the very thing you're doing right now. Falling asleep, not sleep itself. We spoke of that a long while back, the great deep mystery of why we need it. No, I mean the crossing over, the threshold, that exact moment when you slip from being awake to being asleep. Here's the strange and gentle truth of it. No one has ever caught that moment. Not in themselves, not really. Think about it. You've fallen asleep thousands upon thousands of times in your life, every single night. And yet you have never once felt the actual instant it happened. You can't. The moment you cross over is the moment you stop being there to notice. It's a door you walk through only by forgetting you were ever standing at it. And the people who study sleep, who watch the brain change its rhythms as a person drifts down, they can see the shift happening on their instruments. They can see the waves grow long and slow and rolling. But even they can't point to the single exact heartbeat where awake becomes asleep. It's blurry. It's soft-edged. It happens in a kind of gentle fog, a slow dissolving, more like a tide coming in over sand than a line you step across. And you're doing it right now. You're somewhere in that fog already, I think. That lovely hazy country between the two shores, where the thoughts come slower and further apart, where my voice is starting to sound like something heard from another room, where the difference between listening and dreaming has already begun to melt away. You won't notice the moment you go. No one ever does. You'll simply be here, warm and heavy and drifting. And then, at some point, you'll never be able to name. You'll be somewhere else, somewhere deeper, somewhere kind. And that's not something to hold on to or watch for. That's something to let happen. Let it happen. Let the fog roll in over the sand. In, gently, and out, longer and slower. Everything melting, everything going soft. You feel how they all fold together, don't you? This whole long, quiet crowd of them, gathered here at the edge of your bed. The tune that loops in the mind, and the moment of sleep that no one can catch. The itch that spreads from one person to the next by nothing but a thought. And the great low hum of the earth beneath the sea. The turtle that reads a map written in the planet itself. The whale singing its slow song across 100 dark miles. The snowflake carrying the record of its whole long fall. The crickets breathing as one in a summer field. The little drum of your own heart keeping its patient time. Every single one of them still open, still unfinished, still going on this very moment, out there in the dark and in here in the warm, without needing you to solve a single piece of it, or hold it, or even remember it come morning. That was always the gift of it, you know. Not the answers. We never came here for answers. We came here to lie down in the company of the unanswered, to feel how big and soft and gentle the not knowing really is. All those brilliant minds, all those long, careful years, and the world is still brimming over with quiet mysteries, more than we could ever count, tucked into the sky and the sea and the soil and your own two resting hands. And that isn't a lack. That isn't something missing. It's a fullness. It means there will always be more wonder than any one of us could ever use up. It means you can lay every question down tonight, every last one, and know for certain they'll still be here, patient and unhurried, long after you and I have both gone quiet. So lay them down, all of them, the ones we talked about and the ones we never got to, the little worries of your day and the big unanswerable questions of the universe alike. None of them need you tonight. Not one. They can all keep their own slow company in the dark while you rest, and they'll be there in the morning, or they won't, and either way is perfectly all right. In, one more slow breath, and out, everything letting go, everything growing far. There's nothing left for you to do now, nothing at all. You don't have to follow my voice anymore. You don't have to hold on to the thread. You can let it go slack in your hands. Let it slip away entirely. Let my words blur into just a warmth, just a low, soft sound at the edge of the dark. No more meaning to them than the hum of the earth or the wash of a far-off tide. Let them carry you the way the current carries the eel, the way the faint song carries the turtle home, without your having to steer, without your having to try, without your having to be awake for any of it. Your body is heavy now, heavy and warm and sinking, every part of it loose and easy. Your feet far away, your legs gone soft and still, your hands resting wherever they've come to rest, not needing to move, your shoulders melted down, your jaw loose, your face calm, the last little bit of the day gone from around your eyes, your breath slow and low and taking care of itself, the way it always has, the way it always will, all on its own. One of 1,000 quiet things your body knows how to do without ever once being told. The room is dark and it's holding you. The bed is soft and it's holding you. The floor beneath the bed and the ground beneath the floor and the deep, warm, turning earth beneath all of it, humming its one endless note, holding you, holding your whole town, holding the mountains and the seas, singing its low, steady song all through this night the way it has through every night there's ever been. You're a small, warm part of all of it now, drifting down, held on every side, safe as anything, with nowhere to be and nothing to solve, and all the quiet in the world laid out around you. In, soft and slow, and out, slower still. I'm going to go quiet myself now, little by little, and let the silence come in and take my place. You won't need me for the last part of the journey. No one ever does. That door swings open on its own, in its own gentle time, and you'll go through it without noticing, the way you always have, into the deep and the dark and the kind. Let the tune play low. Let the fog roll in. Let the great soft crowd of mysteries keep their patient watch. Let the earth hum you down. Rest now. Sleep now. There's nothing more, nothing at all. Only the warm and the dark and the slow, gentle breath carrying you down and down and down. In and out and down. Sleep well. The wondering will keep. It always does. Good night.